I got to start things off with saying congratulations to Kelly Gregg winning our office pool. She predicted the final score of Game 7 and the first star, Carey Price. She predicted 3-1. She wins no prize except bragging rights, but that's not too bad, right, guys? We had Ted Bird from Montreal Hockey Talk and Eric Engels from the NHL Network on Sirius. Thanks for being here, guys. And of course, we're talking Habs. Is it starting to smell like 93 in here or what?
I don't know if it's starting to smell like 93. It smells like 14 to me. I mean, it's, that's an apples and oranges comparison. And different time, different team. And I just like to look at what this team is doing now. And it's really exciting what this team is doing now and the way that everybody on the team is buying into what Michel Therrien is selling. And everyone is contributing up and down the lineup.
Yeah, Marc Bergevin put the depth in place for this team, and Michel Therrien put it to work. And I think what really carries through here, Wilder, in this win over the Bruins is the sense of belief, and that goes back to 93. You can feel it in the locker room. These guys believe that they can do something special. They pulled it off last night. They're going to move forward into the Eastern Conference Finals with that belief.
Yeah. One thing that's different about this year compared to 93 is this year they were the giant slayers. In 93, the Islanders knocked off the Penguins and got them out of the way, so the Canadiens didn't have to go through Pittsburgh. I mean, the tough route this year is through Boston, and the Canadiens took care of that themselves.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm sure they're happy they're playing the Rangers rather than Pittsburgh again now in the Eastern Conference Final. What do you think? How do they match up against New York?
Well, I think they match up really well. Obviously, over the last few years, while the Canadiens have dominated the Rangers, for whatever reason, Henrik Lundqvist hasn't been comfortable in the Bell Center since that 5-0 game the Rangers were leading and the Canadiens came back and took it from them in a shootout. It's been the backup goalie in Montreal for most of the time for the New York Rangers, and that's something mentally that gives an edge to Montreal headed into the series. But hey, Henrik Lundqvist just shut down one of the most prolific offensive teams of the Pittsburgh Penguins, so it's not all gravy for the Canadiens going into the Eastern Conference Final.
That third period in their Game 7, that was unbelievable. Lundqvist stood on his head. He's a real game saver, and Carey Price did that as well. Let's go back to the series we just had against Boston and kind of looking forward to New York as well. What stood out to you in this series that you think is going to propel them forward into the next one?
Carey Price.
Yeah.
There was so much that went on in this series, and there were so many storylines that Carey Price almost wasn't forgotten is the wrong word, but he made it look so easy, as the great ones do in anything. His positioning and his anticipation was so good. He was making great saves look routine. And I think that ultimately was the difference against the Bruins. As well as the Canadiens played as a team against the Bruins, I don't think they would have won that series without Carey Price in goal. And I think that he's also what gives them the edge ultimately against the Rangers. With all due respect to Lundqvist, who I don't think is going to stink the joint out at the Bell Center, this is a whole different set of circumstances. I think he'll rise to the occasion in an Eastern Conference Final, but I still think the Canadiens have an edge in goal with Carey Price.
Well, Carey Price stood out, but P.K. Subban stood out as well. And when all was said and done, when it got to Game 7, the depth, the energy, the health of the Montreal Canadiens allowed them to prevail. We talked about Max Pacioretty, David Desharnais, Thomas Vanek, guys that were potentially struggling or looked at as struggling in this series. They all battled through, but they enabled the depth to shine through in the end. And you look at guys like Dale Weiss, Daniel Briere, who played 8 minutes in Game 7 and contributed 2 unbelievable points to get them through to the next round, exactly what he was signed to do. Mike Weaver blocking shots. He would have blocked a shot with his face if he had to. And you just look at those depth acquisitions for Montreal Canadiens and Marc Bergevin, and it's proof positive that they're moving forward.
Looks like Elchanik is going to be back in the lineup for New York. How much is that going to help, just quickly?
It's going to help, for sure. You get a player with fresh legs, a guy with tremendous depth of skill and talent, and to be able to inject him into a roster, and who knows who comes out for him, it's going to change throughout the games. Michel Therrien used everybody he had available to him, aside from Ryan White, and you just know that more and more he's going to shuffle the deck and continue to move forward like that.
Guys, thanks so much for being here. We'll see you next time. Lots more Habs talk coming up. Stay tuned, everybody.